Gassy.
Blog Talk USA. Are you tired of waiting for change?
1012, and it gives me 1,250 feet. Exit again.
UA announced the arrival of their flight from Los Angeles and Chicago.
And welcome to TNG Talk on this Monday, the 22nd day of February 2016. Tony Tripiano with you. I would be the T. Richard Zombeck is our co-host extraordinaire, Huffington Post columnist, Liberals Unite columnist. Gosh, he's just everything in my world. Richard, welcome back to this Monday program. And man, oh man, do we get a chance to have some fun today?
Well, welcome back to you, my friend.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Good to be back.
Did we give out the phone number?
No, but we will right now. 347-855-8118. That's to Blog Talk USA, 347-855-8118. And if you would like to ask a question, just hit the number 1 on your dial pad or whatever it is you're using. That'll let us know that you want to ask a question, and we'd be happy to put you on the air. Well, you know, of all the places that we certainly can begin today, and there are plenty of them to go, I think we should probably take a look at the weekend results, starting in Nevada, where the caucuses wrapped up fairly early, and a victory for Hillary Clinton. Interesting the way the news, quote-unquote, news networks were reporting it, and I'll get to that in just a second. But certainly Hillary Clinton did win the Nevada primary, as you know, Z. And Fox News said narrowly won, where everybody else was saying that she had a handy victory. I don't know if I characterize it as barely won, but she did okay.
Well, I wouldn't characterize it as handily either, or a huge win. Or, I mean, let's, my feeling.
Go on. I think that there's some therapy in this for you.
Well, I mean, we're talking 4% here on a low voter turnout, 4 points over one for someone who is basically a household name against someone that most people up until the last 3 months had never heard of. So, the media can say all it wants. I would say it was narrow.
Okay. By the way, before I forget, I want to thank Rihanna for helping us out last week, especially you, as I was off convalescing, and I can't thank her enough for what she did for us, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
I certainly do. It was really good. As usual, as you know, she could hardly get a word in edgewise with my big mouth yapping away for, I think I went an entire hour without breathing.
Well, I've learned to live with it. I'm just kidding. But again, grateful for her stepping up and helping us last week because I needed some time off, and so I got it, and I hopefully am back on for good. Going back to the Nevada caucus and looking at, of course, some of the exit polling data, which I know you've seen or heard or read. Bernie Sanders is not doing well among African Americans. Now, Jonathan Capehart aside, why do you think he's not resonating with them? Because I can't imagine a guy that would be more open to their plight.
Yeah, I agree with you. And just for the sake of argument, I'm going to blame it on the Clinton machine.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing, Tony. I mean, they've been in politics for a really long time. They've done a lot for a lot of people. I'm talking politically. I give partial blame to Bill Clinton for the decline, partial blame for the decline of the middle class, and for some of the decisions that were made when he was president and under his administration, Glass-Steagall aside. And they have a huge outreach in the African community, particularly among politicians. And I think they were instrumental in getting a lot of those politicians elected. And you can see it in John Lewis's comment, and recently Maxine Waters. And I'm trying to remember where she is, rep or senator. Maxine Waters.
She's a rep in California.
California rep, who was on TV yesterday saying, Bernie Sanders has never stood with the Democratic Party. He's a socialist. And said it in that same way that, my 73-year-old conservative Harley-riding friend says, socialist. Like, it's the next line to communism and burning people alive. And they have this mantra that they're using, and I find it more and more of Hillary Clinton is playing dirty politics and calling in a lot of favors. Now, I have absolutely no proof to this. It's purely conjecture and my opinion. But like my doctor likes to say when I tell him he's just taking a guess, it's a highly educated guess.
Okay, fair enough. With all that said, and I just have to ask the question because the reality may be, I'm being very careful how I choose my words here, that Hillary Clinton has the momentum, especially going into Super Tuesday. She may walk away at the end of March with the lion's share of the delegates. That doesn't mean Bernie Sanders walks away. I don't think he does. But chances are that we'll know almost with certainty by the end of March that she will be the presumptive nominee. What do you do? What does Richard Zombeck do at that point? Do you embrace Hillary Clinton? And we're going to talk much later on in the show today about Democratic turnout, but do you embrace Hillary Clinton at this point, or do you walk away from her, Z?
Well, no, I'm not going to walk away. I mean, we need a Democrat in the White House. There's absolutely no two ways about it. With the Supreme Court stuff, with Obamacare, with everything that the Republicans are promising to remove, which is basically anything good we have in our lives. They may even ban chocolate for all I know. So, as far as that goes, no. I mean, I wouldn't use the word embrace, but I'm going to support her over anything the Republicans come up with, because this is what we need going forward in this country. Notice I didn't say to move this country forward. We need a Democrat in the White House to move this country into the next golden age. That's what we need, Tony.
Well, Congressman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who also happens to be chairman of the Democratic National Committee, was on MSNBC this weekend. There was a controversy, a potential controversy last week over superdelegates. Here she does her best. I underscore her best to explain it.
Still with us now is the national chair of the Democratic Party, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Obviously, Congresswoman, nobody is expecting this race to end anytime soon. You got two candidates. The races so far have all been very close. The thing that's different, though, between the Democratic process and the Republican process is this issue of superdelegates. And so we have had some hard to explain. Results that are hard to explain to people who don't care that much about politics without it seeming drastically unfair. For example, the fact that Bernie Sanders won by 22 points in New Hampshire, but the delegate count came out of that race basically even. Is there an internal dialogue, internal discussion in the Democratic Party about the superdelegate process and whether or not the party's going to stick with it?
The superdelegates, and I'm glad you're asking me about this, because the way the media has been reporting this is incorrect. There aren't pledged delegates, i.e. superdelegates, earned at any of these primary or caucus contests, Rachel. Those unpledged delegates are elected officials, party leaders, people who have spent years and years in the Democratic Party, members of Congress, our DNC members are superdelegates, and they have the ability to decide who they choose to support at the convention at any point. So they are not actually, whatever they're saying now, I mean, most of them presumably would remain committed to who they've committed to now, but they haven't all committed to a candidate, and they're really free to decide all the way up into July. If you didn't have superdelegates, and keep in mind, we created superdelegates back in 1984. So this is not something that was suddenly developed, at this election cycle. But we do that so that we can make sure we maximize the ability of real people to participate in our convention. If you look at our convention, it looks like the rainbow that is America. If you look at the Republican convention, they put a little bit of the rainbow in the front row, and then the rest of their convention is not so diverse. So it's really important that we make sure we separate the types of delegates. Today in Nevada,
and she just jumped the shark there, Z. The way the conventions look is wonderful. And she's right. I've been to both Republican and Democratic conventions. Republican conventions are 98% white men and women. But that has nothing to do with superdelegates. So, Debbie, stop jumping the shark. Start acting real. I don't care that they've been around since 1984, Z. Maybe it's time we dropped what I think is antiquated. Yeah, I didn't even. Did you even understand what? I mean, here's the thing: is I don't completely get the superdelegate stuff. And in fact, I do, but I don't want to get lost in the weeds on this. And I think Rachel Maddow made a good point. Most people don't care the story behind superdelegates; they just think it's unfair. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too: is we've got a new electorate coming up. We've got kids. I'm going to call them kids that are just coming out of college. And let me back up a little bit. We have millennials that were coming of age, going through school, coming out of college, going into the workforce, starting to vote, whose idea of, one, politics is completely disjointed and people bickering like children at recess, who see an economy that isn't working in their favor, and whose idea of capitalism is leaving school, going into the workforce already with insurmountable debt, right? So imagine that, all right? We have 20-somethings who just recently started paying attention to politics. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, because I never would have, started at around 16 or 18 years old watching this, the last 8 to 10 years have been just a complete, kerfuffle. Thank you. You do love me. I'm gonna try to squeeze your little word in there as much as I possibly can. But so they have this view that it's not working for them, that the political system is broken, that capitalism doesn't work in their benefit. I mean, just imagine that. Imagine, one of us or being you and looking at that and seeing that at that age and having your vote, and then you're going, well, what the hell is this? He's winning, basically, he's coming really close by popular vote, but she's way out and ahead by something called superdelegates, right? Now, I didn't get it for today, but let's try to get it for tomorrow. There's a really good video that we can get the audio for that explains the superdelegates and why it's no reason to panic. I'd like to try to get that for tomorrow's episode. And that's where she almost accomplished her goal. And she had just, she said, listen, they don't have to commit until July. And she had just finished a couple sentences in a more realistic way. I think it would have been a far better interview and a far better explanation. But she really, she left a lot of wiggle room there.
Well, and you said she was jumping the shark. So I mean, why?
Well, that's a great question because I believe, she has been highly criticized for supporting Hillary, and she's supposed to be as neutral as they come as the chair of the party. It's clear that's not true. It's clear the president is not unbiased in this race as well. But for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a congresswoman from Florida, who is also charged with the responsibility of being the head of the Democratic National Committee, she needs to be pristine and above all of that, and has not been. And so when she jumps the shark, she does it to deflect what I think is important conversation, in my opinion. And so I have some issues with that.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. Well, let's move on to South Carolina. And if you are watching Fox News, first of all, I'm sorry. Secondly, it's going to sound a little like this.
And Fox News election alert for you now. Fox News can now project that businessman Donald Trump will win South Carolina's Republican presidential primary, although not by the double-digit margin that pre-election polls had suggested. Still, this makes back-to-back victories for Trump, who more than doubled the vote of his closest competitor in New Hampshire last week. Texas Senator Ted Cruz and Florida Senator Marco Rubio remain locked in a battle for second place tonight.
Let's bring in our panel now for reaction to this big win for Donald Trump. Not as big, Steve, as was projected going in. He was up by 13 in the average of polls heading into this day, but still a win and still significant for the Trump campaign.
Yeah, very significant. Look, a win is a win in this case for Donald Trump. This is somebody who, to go back 6 months ago, to go back 9 months ago, people weren't thinking that Donald Trump was going to win anything. He was often regarded, myself included, as a candidate who was going to be sort of a novelty candidate, not somebody who was going to win. Huge credit to Donald Trump for doing what he's done just to win this primary.
Mm-hmm. And now, Kirsten, I believe the facts are that no Republican candidate in the history of the country has ever gone on to not get the nomination after winning both New Hampshire and South Carolina. So if Trump does not get
over, President Trump.
Well, I mean, if he doesn't get this nomination, it'll be the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah, it will be the first time, though. I do think if you look at the exit polls, things have tightened up for him a little bit. It's a little more of a three-way race, it looks like. And look, people have had time to think about this. This is, frequently people talk about how South Carolina is sort of the, microcosm of a GOP electorate, and he's running pretty tight. And if you look at 92% of the people voting said they're dissatisfied or angry with the federal government. Those should really be Trump voters. That's really, his sweet spot. And he got 31% and Cruz got 26%. That's not that huge of a margin. So I think we have to wait and see if we are starting to see a sort of tightening among the candidates, or if, it's not necessarily Trump's running away with it.
We're looking live at Trump.
All right, Richard Zombek, I got to tell you, the dialogue has changed radically. That was within, 10 minutes of the polls closing on Saturday night in South Carolina. Now as you know, the conversation is nothing but who is going to stop Donald Trump, and it doesn't look like anybody can.
No. I mean, they were really predicting, wow. South Carolina, right? And this is total evangelical country. Should have been a normal crazy Republican, and it turned out to be the craziest of them all.
Well, you take a look at the exit polling data, and you see that where Ted Cruz should have done real well, he just did okay. Marco Rubio did come in second, but by really just a handful of votes, although he's going to wear that like a badge of courage till the day he dies. And in fact, he was asked yesterday repeatedly, you haven't won anything yet. So what do you plan to win? And he said, Florida, March 15th. Oh, okay. What about Super Tuesday?
Yeah, well, which is interesting because, he actually is polling very well in Florida, contrary to Cruz, who is polling really poorly in his own home state of Texas. Nobody likes this guy. at all. The GOP doesn't like him. The voters don't seem to like him. Three newspapers in Texas came out and basically said, do not under any circumstances vote for this guy. And I don't see. I'm looking at the runoff at the end here of one of these three guys. Trump. I think too many. I'm hoping, and we always talk about this, that Democrats don't come out and vote enough and in large enough numbers. But if Trump gets the nomination, I just don't see it happening. And him winning in the general. I don't see Cruz winning in the general. They're just the stuff that's coming out of their mouth is just too crazy. Rubio could win, but in a debate against Hillary Clinton, he's going to be hamburger meat by the end of any single debate they ever have. I mean, she will just tear him apart.
Well, it's going to get beyond interesting. We're going to come back to Donald Trump, and normally we wouldn't spend this much time talking about a loser, but the loser in this case was, and if anybody read any of the analysis over the weekend of why Jeb Bush failed, it really goes back to one simple thing. For me, anyway, Z, and I'll play the audio in a minute, but for me, it goes back to one thing. He thought he was the presumptive nominee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, no one saw Donald Trump coming. Let's be honest about it. You and I laughed about it. No one saw this coming. So is it fair to really pin that on him? I don't think so.
Well, and the Huffington Post put him in the entertainment section. Nobody took him seriously. And it took a long time before they took him seriously. So, now they're looking at it and they're going, I mean, look, Eric Erickson said in the last couple of days that he is never going to vote for Donald Trump. Both toe the party line.
Right. Well, let's listen to Jeb's speech literally minutes after the polls closed in South Carolina on Saturday night.
We're different in our country because our head of state is not above us, but because the head of state, the people that aspire to the presidency, are part of the people. In a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, we elect a president like us, imperfect under God's watchful eye. I've had a front row seat to this office for most of my adult life. I've seen fallible men rise up to the challenges of our time with humility and clarity of purpose to make our nation safer, stronger, and freer. I firmly believe the American people must entrust this office to someone who understands that whoever holds it is a servant, not the master. Someone who will commit to that service with honor and decency. Our next president will lead an extraordinary country whose people have always made the improbable possible in big ways and small. Every day, Americans test the boundaries of freedom and achieve more than what they could have ever dreamed. But over the last 7 years, our nation's bright light has become little more than a flicker. We have retreated from the world stage. The American values that have brought peace and opportunity are fading. That is not the America we know and love. America is a country that thinks big, acts boldly, and leads without apology. It will be up to the next president to restore that kind of leadership. I'm proud of the campaign that we've run to unify our country and to advocate conservative solutions that would give more Americans the opportunity to rise up and reach their God-given potential. But the people of Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina have spoken, and I really respect their decision. So tonight, I am suspending my campaign. No. Yeah. Thank you, man. I congratulate my competitors that are remaining on the island on their success for a race that has been hard fought. just as the contest for the presidency should be, because it is a tough job.
Well, it is a tough job, and he got a little verklempt there, Z. Little Jebby got verklempt.
Please clap.
Yeah, there you go. I forgot that for a moment. We didn't get a chance last week to, and maybe you did, or you and Rihanna did, talk about is Jeb Bush related to George W., which was real, which scared the bejesus out of me. In fact, you posted that, and you, not the onion, repeat, not the onion. I got the biggest kick out of that.
Well, it's kind of sad, and the interesting thing is that he brought his mommy out, dragged her through the snow, his 90-year-old mother, and then brought his brother out. And what's interesting is prior to him bringing his brother out in South Carolina, one of the number one trending topic and question on Google right before that was, is Jeb Bush related to George Bush? And, because he had Jeb with the exclamation point, to kind of pull himself away from his family name, and so much that people in North Carolina didn't know whether or not he was related. And so that plan was working fine, and then he decides to bring his brother out. And I'm not saying that he lost because of that, but why? Why bring out the guy that basically was, one, partially responsible for the financial crisis, had an attack on American soil during his time in office, and responsible also for approving the bailout of the big banks and Wall Street to the tune of almost $12 trillion.
Yeah, right? But see, if you listen to the media, and let me just interrupt for a moment. If you listen to the media, the people in South Carolina still love George W. Bush, and that's why Jeb made the decision to bring him out, because he's still considered a hero. And in fact, they thought it would hurt Donald Trump when Donald Trump made the correct assertion that Bush lied us into the war.
Yeah, well, it didn't work. I mean, it didn't work. It was not the palliative push that little Jebby needed. And low energy, Tony. The guy's got low energy.
Low energy. Even that speech that he gave, which was well written, has no energy to it. There's no enthusiasm. There's no charisma. And what did Donald Trump say earlier this weekend? Had Jebs run 4 years ago, he'd have been president. I don't believe that. And it doesn't matter. But we do need to now consider what we are up against. The question, of course, is it a three-candidate race at this point on the Republican side of the aisle? How could you say it's anything but that? But who's number two and who's number three, and does that matter, and where will the money come from, and are the establishment people going to coalesce behind Rubio, which supposedly instantaneously happened the moment Jeb Bush abdicated his responsibilities as a candidate? These are a lot of questions that need to be answered, but I want to go back to something you said a little earlier. Trump, Cruz, or Rubio, none of them are palatable.
And I don't think any of them stand a chance against. I don't think they stand a chance against either of the Democratic potential nominees. Bernie Sanders, also in national polling, is beating Trump. Clinton's beating him, but not by. I think a Bernie Sanders Donald Trump runoff has actually a higher margin than Hillary Trump runoff. A lot of people still don't like Clinton. They don't trust her. I thought, I don't know if you saw it, the interview she gave over the weekend when she was asked if she had lied. That was,
an unfair question. That was an unfair question.
Well, it was poorly answered,
and it should not have been asked. And if you're going to ask that question, you need to ask that question of every freaking candidate. I thought, how do you answer that question? I mean, seriously, Z, we've all lied.
Well, that's
right?
how you answer it.
She can't answer it that way. And, I just thought it was an unfair question, or not even the way it was asked. I just thought it was an unfair question. How do you, that was Scott Pelley, right?
I think so.
CBS. Yeah. I had issues with just asking the question. I mean, I'd love to have somebody put those questions to Cruz, Rubio, and that actually Cruz is getting that question a lot because everybody's accusing him of lying. But I just think that's a really, really difficult question to answer. I'm not saying, I did say it was unfair, and I do believe it was unfair, but I don't know how the hell to answer that as a candidate for the presidency.
Well, you answered it. You say, well, everybody lies, but when it comes to blah blah blah, no, I haven't.
Yeah, but where's the soundbite? Where's the soundbite, Matt Z? Everybody lies. As soon as those words are out of your mouth, that's all that you're going to ever hear. Not what came before or after that. Everybody lies, right? That's what you're going to hear.
Well, and here's the thing, right? If she's so politically savvy and has like a campaign that is handling her, then they should have been prepared for a question like that. It's like
you can't prepare yourself for a question like that. I'm sorry. It's just too big a question, Z. It's too big a question.
Tony, she's low in the polls in trustability. Okay, there's an indication there that question might come up. Right? Again, it goes back to my, why isn't there someone in every one of these single rooms going, what could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? What could come our way? What's the worst case scenario? They need a super negative person like me in those rooms all the time with impending doom, right? They need the most depressed, impending doom, horrific person in those rooms going, well, what if this comes up? Well, that'll never come up. Oh, yes, it will. Eeyore. Get Eeyore in those rooms.
Well, now that you've offered yourself, I had sent you an email earlier today asking if you wanted a Clinton surrogate on the show this week. Maybe we can make you the Clinton surrogate and see how that goes. I'll suggest that to the woman that sent me the email to put you on their surrogate list.
I'll be kind if we have her on.
Okay. Well, let's now just go back to Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz. John Kasich is staying in through, I believe it's going to be through the 15th of March and maybe beyond that because he wants to win Ohio, and he could. I mean, as governor, he could. Yesterday, by the way, or maybe it was Saturday, he signed legislation as governor of Ohio defunding Planned Parenthood there, which isn't going to last. So he's doing the conservative thing the right way, but he's irrelevant. Ben Carson, is that his name? That's neurosurgeon guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to him?
The sleepy dude.
Is he still in the race?
I think so. I haven't heard that he's dropped out.
Oh, I just don't. God, until I said his name, and I'm not joking. Until I said his name, I'd forgotten all about him.
This is what I do. Every time he comes on TV and starts talking, and my wife's in the room, this is what I do.
Yeah, well, he's pretty excitable. Absolutely excitable. Anyway, what's that?
He stabbed someone in the belt buckle.
Yes, he did. And it's a good thing they had that belt on at the time. Or Dr. Ben Carson would have never become a doctor. It's a Wonderful Life would have never become a movie. And we could go on and on and on. With that said, let's go back to the top three. Again, none of them palatable. But there is something going on that we do need to recognize. And there is a record amount of Republicans turning out in these early states. How do we reconcile that?
Well, get the vote out, Tony. Right? I mean, we've talked about this before. Where are the Democrats? Where's the Democratic Party on this? On getting people out, on getting people out there to to vote. Where are they? Where are the people knocking on doors? Where are the ads? Where are the onslaught of emails that I filter to my spam box? Why is this not happening? And
go ahead and finish your sentence.
Well, I've said this before, is that the Republicans rely too much on the stupidity of people, and the Democrats rely too much on the intelligence of people, and that they're going to do the right thing, and that we're dependable, and that, the Democrats are all about democracy, and they find that, that their vote is important. And I don't think they're any much more in tune with their electorate than the Republicans are. I got to tell you, over the course of the last week with the Jonathan Capehart thing, I wrote 2 articles about that guy. I got banned from his Twitter account because, he has an opinion and other people's opinions don't matter. Chris Matthews, I also wrote an article about that did very well, by the way, on Huffington Post and on Liberals Unite. Chris Matthews' way of dealing with the stuff that I've been seeing on the news, the way I'm seeing the Democratic Party behave, the dirty stuff that Clinton is pulling. I'm really, I got to tell you, over the last couple of days, I've become a little disillusioned. And this is not, here's the thing, this is not, I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter and I want Bernie Sanders to be president. I just, in my naivete, let's say, or maybe ignorance, I did not expect this kind of behavior from the Democratic Party, and I'm a little disillusioned, Tony.
Let's go back to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz again. She was asked during that interview, actually at the very beginning of that interview that we played a little earlier, about Democratic turnout. And listen to her response.
Getting a doubleheader at any point is always good in sports. It's triple good in politics, particularly when you can speak with the national chair of one of our 2 parties. Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz is the Democratic National Committee chair, joins us from Miami. Congresswoman, thanks very much for being with us. It's really nice to have you here tonight.
My pleasure, Rachel. Great to be with you.
Let me ask you about not the result between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton in Nevada, but let me ask you about the turnout. This is only the second time the Democratic Party has managed a contested caucus in Nevada as an early state caucus. It looks like the numbers suggest that the voter turnout is down maybe as much as 50%. From 2008, the Democratic turnout estimate right now we're hearing is 80,000 people turned out in Nevada. Are you worried that turnout numbers are down so much in each of the first 3 states for Democratic voters?
No, we had a different sort of election, and I think you have to judge each election based on, the dynamics that occur in that election. 80,000 is a really good turnout. It's something that the Nevada Party really emphasized. We had electronic tools that we used this time. 31,000 people were able to pre-register going into the caucuses. We had an online tool that helped people find their caucus sites so that they could more easily get there. And just generally, I think we tried to make what is a process that teams with democracy a little bit easier for folks to be able to make sure that they could participate.
Madam Chair, I'm going to have to interrupt you there because we're going to go to Senator Smithy. Getting a doubleheader at any point is always good in sports. It's triple good in politics.
You can stop. Thank you. Once again, she didn't answer the question. Now I understand your anger. Now I understand your concern. And this is a concern that I've had for many years with the Democratic Party. They preach GOTV as if it is their one and only Bible, that the only thing that matters is getting out the vote. They've got more electronic data. You have no idea how tied in I am to that side of this story as a former candidate for Congress and as a former candidate for the state house. I know the dialogue. I can recite it chapter and verse, and it's bull crap.
That was a close call. I almost had to mark that time.
I know. Well, it's conversation. It's all it is. There's no real effort to get out the vote until election day, and at that point, it's too late.
Well, and here's the thing too, right? So this goes back into another analysis. Is Hillary Clinton won handily, quote unquote. She won by huge numbers, quote unquote, and she won by 4 percentage points. And if you take into consideration that Democrats typically and historically turn out in low numbers for primaries, then she really didn't. She won by about 400 or 500 votes is what she won by. Granted, 4% sounds like a big lead, and 4% is a big lead when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. But here we're talking in the thousands, Tony. We're talking 6,000 to 500 and 5,400. We're not talking gigantic numbers out at the polling stations. And so a 4-point lead with a low turnout, which is typical of Democrats in primaries, it's not that big a deal. It's just not that big a deal. And Bernie Sanders is ahead in national polling in CNN, Quinnipiac, and MSNBC polls. So,
So somebody, hold on, before you go any further, somebody just sent me an email. A longtime listener of mine. Why does Richard continue to make the case that the Clinton campaign is just playing dirty politics? What does he think he's accomplishing? Well, I'm not going to answer for you, but I'm going to answer for me. How about the truth?
Well, they are playing dirty politics.
I'm just saying. You're just telling the truth.
Well, yeah, and it's the way politics is played, but there's some underhanded. I mean, look, she's under investigation in Nevada. The campaign is under investigation in Nevada. Now, I know that happens all the time. I get that, but there were people dressed as nurses walking in to the nurses union saying, "Hey, we got to look out for this Bernie guy because he's not everything he says he is, and he's a socialist." And socialist is a bad word, and it's we're on our way to communism. And listen, to whoever wrote that email, I get it. I get that it's dirty politics. But what I don't get is voters and people who are behind a candidate that complain and bitch and scream when the Republicans pull this stuff, but when their own candidate does it, all's fair in love and war, and this is just the way politics goes. And I'm sorry, but I hold my candidates and my party and the candidates from my party to a higher standard. Just like my battle with Jonathan Capehart, I hold journalism, particularly Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists, to a higher standard than a blogger. And I hold my presidential candidates to a high... Look, if Hillary Clinton was doing this against Trump, if she was doing it, it's dirty. We're talking, and here's the thing, right, is I do have a particular affinity and affection for Bernie Sanders, right? And I look at some of these candidates and we forget that they're human beings and they've dedicated their lives to public office and they've dedicated their lives to maybe an ideology and maybe a personal quest for doing good in the world, and some of them for doing horrible things. But I think someone that has dedicated the last 50 years of their lives to social justice, which is something as Democrats and progressives we should all be interested in, and to ruin them, to ruin their reputation unscrupulously like that. There are other ways to do this. There are other ways to beat someone. And if you can't beat them with policy, then, calling them names behind their back or sending out crappy emails or spreading rumors about them is not the way that I want my party to win.
All right.
So,
quick side trip, just a very quick side trip. You are the king of social media. There's no question. Richard Zombeck knows. He knows it. He knows it. I just got an email that I'm now being followed by the Michigan State Supreme Court. Should I be worried?
No, I think that's fantastic.
Okay, just wanted to be sure. I'm just teasing. No, I mean, I'm not teasing. They really did follow me, but I wasn't worried. You know, you and I shared a moment on the show many months back about our favorite movie, which was The Shawshank Redemption. Just happened to be that we both love that movie. Now my dilemma. Can you just listen to this and then we'll talk?
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
Her church taught her to do all the good you can for all the people you can for as long as you can. After law school, she could have joined a high-priced law firm, but instead, she worked to reform juvenile justice in South Carolina, exposed racism in Alabama schools, registered Latino voters in Texas, and provided legal aid to families in Arkansas. Her life's work has been about breaking barriers, and so would her presidency. Which is why for every American who's not being paid what they're worth, who's held back by student debt or a system tilted against them, and there are far too many of you, she understands that our country can't reach its potential unless we all do. Together, a stronger country.
All right, he could sell me VD medication. I'm telling you, Morgan Freeman can sell me anything, I'm buying it.
He could sell me VD.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I thought we needed it. I mean, listen, it's a great ad, and it does provide a chance for a little levity. You know, she also went to work for the Walmart Corporation, but we won't go there right now. My point is, he is like, damn, he's good at that.
Yeah, he's really good. So wait, I was going to finish my sentence. He could sell me VD. Please don't anybody clap. I already had it.
That's funny. That's funny. Anyway, I just, you know, when I saw the ad yesterday afternoon, and then they were playing it on some of the morning shows this morning, and even people that shouldn't be impressed with it were impressed with it. Whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Morgan Freeman rocks. Absolutely rocks. Yep. And just there's nothing he's going to narrate that I'm not going to go, yep, you're right. Absolutely. Whatever you say. Whatever you say. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, look, if I could get Morgan Freeman to do a plug for our show, you know, just imagine. I mean, even if he lied, you know, and said Tony and Richard are like two of the best looking guys, they really have a face for radio, we would take off. You get Morgan Freeman in an ad, I mean, you can't. I don't know, and it's actually really not a bad ad, you know.
No, it's not a bad ad at all. And you don't see an ad like that coming from the Republican side of the aisle. I mean, what are they going to say? Marco Rubio, as Solicitor General, he took away the rights of women. He, proved his racism repeatedly by doing this, that, and the other. I mean, can you think of a scenario where any three of them would be able to come up with something like Bernie's America ad, which was awesome? And Tad Devine, by the way, is Bernie's campaign manager, somebody I've interviewed many, many times, and is just a brilliant strategist, by the way. I'll try to get him on the show. He did that America ad, and still makes me lump up when I think of it.
Oh yeah, no, I get choked up too. And here's if we want to compare ads, Marco Rubio had an ad out where he's got this beautiful seascape and it's taken from the water with scenes of the city and a tugboat, and it's actually footage from Canada. So I joked on Twitter that he used a video from Ted Cruz's phone when Ted Cruz was back home in Canada, where he's from. And that was yeah.
What's happening with that the Cruz lawsuit? Is that real?
Yeah, it is. And I think there are going to be more. I think the closer he gets and the better he does in elections, I think the the more lawsuits there are going to be. And, I think they're, well, I don't know. I mean, they could be frivolous. But also maybe there is one out there that actually does think that this needs to be discussed. And maybe it does. I mean, obviously, how can we not find it interesting that he's poo-pooing this, but when they accused the president of being born somewhere else, it was a gigantic issue. Gigantic issue. So really, you shouldn't really care if I was born in Canada because my mother was American, even though she was registered to vote in Canada. But Obama should never have become president because he was born in Kenya under an American mother. I don't even understand how this isn't being discussed, but maybe it just doesn't have to because it's so damn ridiculous that it's not going to hold any water anyway in any kind of reasonable discussion. If that's
I will tell you, when President Obama did finally reveal his birth certificate, I liked the way that he played cat and mouse with the Republicans on that. Knowing full well that you have a legitimate birth certificate in your grasp, knowing that, and allowing them to go on as long as he did, I thought was freaking brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And he's done that before. He's a master at that kind of stuff. Like the debate with Romney when he went, "Go on."
Yes.
No, please, by all means, keep going. And that is the sign of someone who knows how to debate, how to win an argument. No, please, everybody's listening. Candy Crowley, please, let him continue. And, just let him bury himself. And it was all we were talking about for 3 or 4 days. Here's what Romney's saying. Here's the video showing that he's wrong.
It's a beautiful... Go ahead. Finish your thought. Because
when you see something like that, you just go, oh, this is going to be good. And you just watch it happen. And you watch it unfold before your very eyes. And I get a tremendous amount of satisfaction when he takes a little swipe or a jab at someone, and it's so well articulated. He really is quite good.
People have no idea how much we're going to miss him. They have no clue.
Well, I know.
They have no clue. I love this guy. I don't like the TPP. There are some other things he's done that I find extremely odd. But for the most part, he was the right man at the right time. I don't know that anybody else could have built what he built, what he was able to do with the economy, facing what any other president would have to face. And so I give him a lot of credit for getting us out of the George W. Bush dungeon.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that, and I still hold to this, and I admit it's a pretty bold statement, but I think he will go down as probably one of the most consequential presidents in history.
And I've been saying that for a very long time now. By the way, in the handful of minutes we have left, I just want to go climb into the Wayback Machine. On this day in 1980, the United States hockey team shocked Russia and the world when they defeated the Soviet Union 4-3. Now, I'm going to guess you're probably not a big hockey fan because I don't think you're a big sports fan. But good. But I remember that very clearly. In fact, that was the year I graduated high school.
I remember that also. I was in high school.
It was just quite a moment. Well, it was just quite a moment. And it really, it's one of those moments that brings a country together, and, it's something that you can't you can't predict. In fact, the last thing you could do is predict something like that. The Russians were the big bad monsters, still the Cold War going on. For the U.S. to end up doing what they're doing was really quite patriotic, if you'll recall.
Well, and what it was too was it was underdogs beating professionals. You know, I mean, the Russian had a professional hockey team, and the Americans at the time were still not able or allowed to draft from professional teams, right? Didn't that only happen recently, or were we still dealing?
That is correct.
Yeah, we were still dealing with kids up against the Russian machine that were, had mothers that were getting up at 4:00 in the morning, that were buying their own equipment, that were funding their own practices, that were, doing this out of the love of the sport, and won. And yeah, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible.
Indeed it was. Well, what's also incredible is how well we're doing on Twitter today. Z just sent me a wonderful email. 3-week retreats gets us almost 150,000 eyes. And how do you 300,000 eyes? There would be 2 eyes per person, assuming that everybody has 2. Z, which brings us to an important point in the program, which is how people can support us. And you actually took the time to put together a little video that I have posted all over my social media on how people can rate us on iTunes. So why don't we let people know how they can help us out?
You can go to tnztalk.com, and you'll find our Twitter feeds, Facebook feeds. We also have a support page that shows all the ways you can support us. You can donate, you can pledge. That's the financial help that we need to keep this going. There are also a lot of other ways you can help. One being the major way, and the video that Tony just talked about, is going to iTunes, either online in your desktop app or in the podcast app on your iPhone. Now, the problem is, and the reason I put the video together, is that the way that it's set up to rate and review things is not very easy, which is kind of weird because Apple has this great interface. So I put a video together over the weekend that walks you through it step by step to make it a little easier. And really, if you can put that little extra effort in, it really helps us. It helps us on iTunes, and it helps more people hear us and get to listen to us. So it's tnztalk.com. You'll find everywhere to follow us. All the information you need about us, our bios are up there, and the support page has a dozen ways that you can help the show.
And we appreciate everybody that will make the effort to do that. Again, our eternal gratefulness to Rihanna, Ron Spikes at Blog Talk USA for all of their support last week while I was down and out. Glad to be back today. Looking forward to be back tomorrow. Z, unless you've got anything else, I think we're good to go.
I don't.
All right. Well, everybody, have a great day. We will be back tomorrow. And as always, I ask that you be well.